Hey y'all, I hope you're having a good day. Um, I went to the endocrinologist last Friday, like I had told y'all in the end of one of my videos, I think, on the weight loss. I had been getting really tired. Um, by the end of the day, I would, by 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I would be ready to go to bed. I mean, I was just exhausted. We could go out on a Saturday and take my wife shopping or whatever, and by 3, 4, 5 o'clock, I was exhausted. I was just like, I wish I was in bed. And she would be like, wondering what's wrong with me. And we proceeded to go on, after I had weight loss surgery. And I just thought maybe my sugar was dropping or something. I didn't know. I had no earthly idea what was wrong with me. And I went to my family physician, and I went for my 6 month checkup. So I've done my blood work on like a Thursday and went back to see him on, I think, Tuesday of the next week or something like that, which was not unusual. That's just the way it is. And I'd done the fasting. I hadn't ate anything, so he could check everything good. Um, I went in and he came in and he pulled up my chart and was looking through my file on the computer. And I'm not a medical person, so I don't know the terminology, but he said this is low and this is high or something like that. He said, and we need to redo the blood work. He said, because it's showing your thyroid being overactive. And he sent me right over and he'd done the blood work and checked it again. And the same time, right after I'd done the blood work, had my blood work drawn, he sent me in to do a scan of my thyroid. So I did all that and I left, and um, he tells me, get a call, they need to schedule me for an uptake scan, which they do not do in Enterprise at Medical Center Enterprise. So I had to go to a sister hospital in Dothan, to Flowers Hospital, to have this uptake scan. And they scheduled me for that. So we went by the hospital that morning. My appointment was like at 8:30 or something. And I took a radiation pill, and I don't know how all this works, but it would be checking the thyroid activity. So I had to go back at a certain amount of hours later exactly for them to redo, or for them to actually do the uptake scan. So I went back in and I'd done that, and I get a call from my doctor's office telling me, hey, we are going to refer you on to the endocrinologist because something's not right with your thyroid. Of course, I start getting freaked out in my head because my mother um, had thyroid cancer and had to have her thyroid removed. So I didn't know, is this hereditary? Do I have cancer too? Or I didn't know what was going on, and I wouldn't know until I saw the endocrinologist. So the endocrinologist office calls and says, hey, we've got your file here. Your family medical doctor, family physician is referring you to us. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, are you able to tell me anything about my chart? And she said, no, I'm just a scheduler. She said, I'm not a nurse, so I can't tell you anything about your medical record. I can't say anything about your update scan or anything. So we go in that morning that my appointment is scheduled with the endocrinologist. Of course, I'm nervous inside because I don't know what's going on. And we get called back finally. The nurse does my blood pressure and all, and she says the doctor will be in with you shortly. Well, my wife and my mother both have had their thyroids removed, and they both had Hashimoto's or have Hashimoto's. I'm not sure how that works. And my mother had thyroid cancer along with hers. So we get into the office, we're sitting there, and my doctor comes in and he looks through my chart. He couldn't tell me anything because, of course, he hadn't reviewed my chart. He asked me all kinds of questions, and I tell him, yes, my mother has Hashimoto's. She also had thyroid cancer. And I said, can I get thyroid problems from my mother? And he said, yes. He said it can come in either form of hypo or whatever. And my mother's and my wife's are both hypo. Well, he says you have hyperthyroidism. And he said you have hyperthyroidism and you have Graves' disease. So and I'm like, kind of like, oh my gosh, what is Graves' disease? Of course, he puts me on some medication. He said this medication may level it off for you and the medication may work. He said you may even be able to come off of the medication and not have to take it for very long because it may straighten your thyroid out completely. He said, but then there's a chance the medication will not work at all. He said, and if the medication does not work to get you under control with your thyroid, the next two options would be to have surgery and have your thyroid removed. He said, but that is not my first option. He said, because you can have your thyroid removed. And during the surgery of having your thyroid removed, he said that there's a possibility that they could cut your voice cords. I'm not sure all the terminology of this. He said, and you could lose your voice completely. He said, you may not ever be able to talk again. And he said, but before I would recommend that option, he said I would go with taking a pill which has red dye, I believe is what's in it, along with the radiation. He said the red dye, of course, and I already knew this from my mother having to have this done after she had her thyroid removed. The thyroid is the only part of the body that will absorb and take in the red dye, and it's attached with radiation. Therefore, that takes the radiation into your thyroid. It will kill the thyroid, and your body will eventually absorb. Just your thyroid would die, and your body would absorb the thyroid, and your thyroid would be gone. Therefore, I would be on medication for the rest of my life because I would no longer have a thyroid at all. So hopefully the medication will get my thyroid under control. He said my thyroid is working 2 times what it should be. And having gastric sleeve did not cause me to develop hyperthyroidism. He said it's just a condition that I probably got from my mother that was passed on. And it could become under control, he said, and I'm trying to remember. He said, but you could develop, I can't remember the term I'm trying to look for. He said, but you could develop other issues later in life that could also cause problems. And I can't remember what I'm trying to say. And I believe basically my body is fighting with my thyroid, I think. I'm not 100% sure. I'm researching this stuff, and but basically I have Graves' disease, and hopefully I can get this under control with this medication. So I'm unfortunately can develop other issues in the future besides Graves' disease, and I hope everybody that develops these issues can get them under control. I really don't want to have to lose my thyroid. I really hope it gets under control, but he's kind of scared me as far as the option of having surgery and having my thyroid removed, because the possibility of losing my voice and not ever being able to talk again, of course, would not be a good thing, because we need to be able to communicate in some way, and I don't know sign language. And but anyway, I'm going to cut this video off. I'll do updates in the future and let you know if the medication works for me. If it doesn't work, what my next option is. Hopefully he can get it under control. But I'm going to cut it off here. I hope y'all have a blessed day, and everyone take care.